Alright, so I'm here in my kitchen, and today I'm going to be making a video about these three different bolts that are all a very similar design, but from three different manufacturers. So, a novice climber seeing these installed in a wall is most likely not really going to be able to tell the difference between the three, but there are a few key differences about the use cases and installation methods of these three bolts that I think are worth making a video about. So the first one here is the wave bolt, which is very popular in Texas for whatever reason. It's made of 1/4-inch stock, and it's welded down here at the bottom, and it requires a hammer to install. And it can be pretty tough to install if you're using a 1/2-inch hole as recommended by the manufacturer, because you start getting a lot of interference once you're around like this level of depth. And if you're using like a hammer like this with a plastic tip, you're really going to be banging on it. Luckily, this is a big hammer, but I personally don't like bringing big heavy tools out when I'm already bringing everything needed for gluing in. They do have a specific installation tool which fits over the head of this, and then you hammer on top of that with a non-stainless hammer to drive it in. But if you just use a non-stainless hammer, you're likely to mar up the bolt, and it'll see some surface corrosion after install, so generally not best practice. The next bolt is the twist bolt from Bolt Products, and these I like because they're available in multiple lengths from 80mm to 100mm. This is a 150, so the 100mm is similar to the 4-inch length of the wave bolt, and as far as I know, wave bolts are not readily available in anything other than the 4-inch length, so hopefully that works for you, but if not, I like that this offers a wider range of custom lengths for your particular applications. These also fit inside a 12mm hole pretty well. If you're using, I found that like the 100mm ones that I've ordered have a little bit of interference fit right here where the legs start to separate. So in a 12mm hole, you do have to bang it in pretty hard, but in a 1/2-inch hole, they just install perfectly easily. These 150s, on the other hand, since they don't have that gap, I found that I'm able to install these into a 12mm hole just by twisting them in and maybe having to lightly tap them with a nearby rock for the final fitment, but it doesn't really require a hammer to install, and in a 12mm hole you get really good interference fit with this. Not enough that I would put my body weight on it, but definitely enough that I'm not worried it's going to fall out of the hole while the glue cures. So the last bolt is a new bolt which I haven't used yet. I've ordered a few of these, and these are the crossover bolts from Team Tough, and they kind of are designed to still give you an interference fit, but you're able to install this in a 1/2-inch hole without having to use a hammer, and you get full embedded depth before you use the hammer to do the final interference, which pushes this leg of the bolt against this bottom part here and separates out and provides an interference fit inside the hole. So that's nice, because one problem that lots of people have complained about is with a wave bolt, you have to hammer it in, and if you find that either your hole's not deep enough or you can't get sufficient force with your hammer, there have been several instances where the installation is botched and you only get like part way installed, and then you have a large portion of the bolt hanging out, and then obviously it's not as strong, and then you're trying to figure out how to remove a botched glue in, which can be a pain in the you-know-what. So I do like that that design of this, that like worst case scenario, you get this installed and you try to set it, but it doesn't set for whatever reason, you can't get enough force with your hammer. Even still, it's going to be a perfectly fine and usable bolt as long as it doesn't fall out of the wall. So you can use these as just like a regular glue in without having to hammer it in. You do end up with a larger eye if you do it that way than these other two, but that should be perfectly fine. And if you do manage to hammer it in and fully install it with the interference fit, the eye is going to be a similar shape to the twist bolt or the wave bolt. So that's basically my review of these three. Another thing about twist bolts which I like is that they're available in an 8mm version, which is just a nice alternative for when you want a really beefy bolt, something that you can run a rope through and not worry about the bend radius as much, or just repel directly off of. I also really like using these for upgrading hardware. If I'm removing a bolt out of a 1/2-inch hole, then I can upsize the hole to 16mm or 18mm and install one of these. I've actually found that I can install these in 5/8 inch holes pretty well. So that's a nice option that these other two manufacturers don't really offer, but just from like a usability and availability standpoint, and just functionality, these three bolts that are 6mm or 1/4-inch are going to be good enough for most rock climbing applications. So the next part of the video, I'm going to install one of each of these in a roof climb that I've been projecting, and comment on the installation and what I like and don't like about actual use of these bolts. Alright, so now I'm out here in the wilderness, and I'm going to install the first bolt. It's going to go right here, and it's going to be the wave bolt. So this is a 1/2-inch hole, and that's what's specified for this. And I'm going to want to make sure that I squeeze enough glue in, because if I don't have enough glue in and I find that after I've already hammered it in, I'm not going to be able to get it out. Now I've got the glue in this big old hammer. See, I can only really get it like about an inch in or so before it already starts to bind. So you really do have to use a hammer to install these bolts, unless you just drill a much bigger hole. that one wasn't too bad actually, but as you can see, I had to tap it a few times with the hammer to get it in. All right, for the next one, I'm going to use the 12mm twist bolt, and I drilled a 12mm hole here instead of a 1/2 inch hole, which I used for the wave bolt. So I'm going to squirt some glue into it. So for this, you twist the twist bolt in counterclockwise. And you know what? I can already tell I'm going to need more glue. So it's one advantage of a bolt that you don't have to hammer in all the way, and you can always pull it back out, add a little bit more glue. In this 12mm hole, I'm almost able to install it all the way just by twisting it. In fact, I can install it all the way. That's flush with the wall now. I didn't have to use the hammer at all. I could just install it by hand in this 12mm hole. And even though it's not as tight of an interference fit, I'm not worried about that sagging out of the wall at all. And even with this this ring on it and chain, it's pretty well in there. It's got a good interference fit, not good enough for me to put my body weight on, but plenty good enough to hold the bolt in the wall in this roof. Now the last one, this is a 1/2 inch hole here, and I'm going to be installing this crossover bolt. So I'm going to do a quick dry fit to see if I can in fact get it all the way in. And yeah, it goes pretty much all the way in dry, and it even does have a little bit of interference just with that dry fit. So that's good to know. You can use this just without a hammer. So now I'll put the glue in the hole. All right, I'm going to twist this bolt in. Make sure I get lots of glue in between the legs. So that's pretty good. Now I'm going to see how hard it is to set this. And I'm going to get it a little bit. Yeah, I like that position pretty good. Hold the chain out of the way, and I try to hit it at maybe this angle. Alright, having to hit it pretty hard. I think I'm going to try a different angle. I think this is a good angle though. I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure this is setting the way it's supposed to. Hit my thumb. I'm sure somebody's going to say I'm doing it wrong. Maybe if I was right-handed I could do it. That's probably the problem. You probably need a stainless steel hammer, that's what somebody's going to say. Nada. First impressions are not great for this bolt. It's still got no interference fit on it, even after all of that hammering. Just too difficult to set. If you're going to use it, I mean, maybe there's a technique. Feel free to let me know in the comments what the trick is for these. But I'm not having any good luck. And this is in a 1/2 inch hole that I drilled with a 4-cutter tip Hilti drill bit. So, not sure what else I could have done. Alright, this is my second attempt, and this is a crossover bolt that I did not have to place in a roof, so I was able to get a little bit more of a better angle. So I was able to get it to set, but man, did I have to wail on it. And this is like, you know, a pretty beefy hammer. So, you know, if you're having to lug something as big and chunky as this out to install these bolts, I'm sorry, I just don't think that they're for me.